bring in Doug Herbert for more clarity, our international affairs editor. Great to have you on the programme, Doug.
How are you, Gavin?
I mentioned Vladimir Putin's statement.
Yeah.
It's interesting how carefully calibrated it seems.
And beyond the careful calibration, Gavin, there's the fact that Putin is making a statement at all. We've had, similar types of incidents in recent years where there's been total radio silence from the Kremlin, if not days and months, even years. The fact that he is in some way reacting, like you said, not recognizing that Russia necessarily was directly implicated, but at least apologizing for what he calls a tragic incident, shows that he wants to show that he is visible and present and is concerned with trying to give reassurances in this case. Now, the fact that we're talking about that this was done apparently in a phone call with Azerbaijan's president, Ilham Aliyev, an ally of Vladimir Putin's. Yes, it's been a complicated relationship at times, Azerbaijan and Russia, but we do know that a few months back, Azerbaijan asked to become a member of the BRICS group, a group that is putatively led by Russia. It's a country that Russia has relied on for energy exports at a time of war. So when I say it's an ally, yes, not always an easy ally, but an ally. And this is a president with which Putin would, have great pause before he'd want to rile him in any way and probably take pains to want to reassure. But there's also a commercial, perhaps political imperative here as well. Putin wants to speak up to reassure because, as you said, in this statement, right, and we could see that the statement there, he wasn't taking responsibility. He was basically saying that the plane was trying to land in an area where there were active drone operations, basically saying Ukrainian combat drones operating in that area. So basically, turning the burden of blame, the onus of the blame to Ukraine, and saying that Russian air defenses were in operation at the time, not linking that with the fact that this plane went down with what some intelligence agencies say are signs of sort of holes in the fuselage suggesting shrapnel from some sort of object. So Putin wanting to reassure, I will note that in the days since this plane crash in Kazakhstan, remember, it was across the Caspian Sea because it couldn't land in Grozny. It had to fly across the Caspian to land in Kazakhstan on the eastern coast of the Caspian is where it crashed. In the days since, we've had several airlines, including Azerbaijani Airlines, canceling flights between, in Azerbaijan's case, Baku and 7 Russian cities, including, of course, Grozny. But we've also had El Al canceling flights between Tel Aviv, suspending, for the time being, Tel Aviv and Moscow. We've had Fly Dubai airline between Dubai and Sochi, among other cities. And we've also had Kazakh Airlines suspending its flights between Astana and Yekaterinburg in central Russia. So all of this economic imperative, Putin can't say this is a war going on and therefore we're suspending flights over Russian territory. It's a special military operation for Russia, but he's trying to issue reassurances that he's there, he's aware of what happened, and perhaps giving hints that whatever went wrong, he wants to take measures to assert that airplanes and commercial aviation will be safe flying over Russian territory.
So we have these cancellations. We're hearing from different voices in the course of 5 days, big questions for Russia over what happened. It clearly seems, I mentioned US intelligence, that this flock of birds that was first put out seems to be dissipated a long time ago. I should also mention it, baptism of fire for the new EU Foreign Affairs Chief, Kaja Kallas. She's been speaking today.
And she is Kaja Kallas, the Estonian new foreign policy chief of the EU, has been outspoken, if anything, about what she sees as blatant, rabid Russian aggression in almost all areas. She does not and has not, also by dint of Estonia and the Baltic states' history with their much larger Russian neighbor, does not give Russia the benefit of the doubt. And you could say that she is justified in doing so, given Estonia's experience with Russia. And this case is no exception. She has said that that the Russian reaction to this and the information that you cited coming from intelligence agencies, Western intelligence agencies, including U.S. military officials that have spoken to U.S. news outlets saying that they have intelligence indicating that there may have been Russian missiles, Russian air defenses that misidentified the plane and shot it down. All of this gives very disturbing, unsettling echoes of the shooting down of, you'll remember, MH17, the Malaysian Airlines jetliner, over Ukraine by then pro-Russian forces in Ukraine back in 2014, with all the civilians aboard there being killed. So obviously very serious echoes. She is connecting the dots here, saying we're seeing another incident of what she suspects to believe, based on the intelligence we're hearing, still under investigation, of Russian foul play. She's not giving them the benefit of the doubt. She's sending a strong signal calling for a rapid and thorough and independent investigation, an international independent investigation.
Doug, stay with us. Let's bring in from Kyiv, in fact, Emmanuel Shaz, our correspondent there, who's on the phone. Emmanuel, first of all, very interesting listening to Doug. Given that go back 10 years, we had this first incident, this flight being shot down, MH17. I was there in Hilversum, I remember very well, where all of the many Dutch citizens that had flown that day, their bodies there for the burial, for the mass remembrance service to them that day. Now, what's being said from President Zelensky? What's being said in Ukraine today, Emmanuel?
Well, first off, President Zelensky offered condolences for the people who died in this new plane crash that seems to also bear all the signs of having been shot down. Of course, President Zelensky is being cautious about that. He says that the pictures that we've seen, the video that we've seen of the plane after its crash seemed to corroborate the fact that it was shot down. Of course, he calls for a thorough investigation to establish the chain of responsibility. And you were mentioning this crash that happened on the 17th of July 2014 in Donetsk Oblast, and that was actually that cost the life of 298 people, the majority of which were Dutch citizens. The chain of responsibility had been established for this crash following an international investigation, and 4 names emerged, 3 of them being Russian commanders and a pro-Russian separatist Ukrainian commander in Donetsk Oblast. The missile that was used was a surface-to-air a surface-to-air missile. The missiles came from the Russian army in something that is perhaps similar to what we're seeing now. And those the air defense missiles being used in such cases, well, those systems cannot make the difference between a civilian airline, a military airplane, and this could lead to confusion, and this could lead exactly to the shooting down of a civilian plane. So very significant that President Zelensky talked to Aliyev today about this case.
Emmanuel, good to talk to you. We're going to try and talk to you in the next hour or so in person. We can hear you just about by phone, but that was very useful to hear. Emmanuel Shaz, our correspondent in Kyiv. Doug is still with us. Doug, take us somewhere else, close to the Finnish coast, to the Baltic Sea as well, because another incident alleged to be involving Russia, so-called ghost ships, one that's being close to analysis now by Finland. What's going on here?
Yeah, the ghost ships are a shadow fleet, right? Russia has maintained, according to intelligence agencies, oil and gas and energy experts across the world. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure it out. They've had, in order to circumvent the sanctions on their oil, they've had a shadow fleet, that is, of these unofficial sort of vessels throughout the international waters trying to transit their oil around the world. And, you know, perhaps some estimates say as much as 70% of Russia's oil right now is transported by these so-called phantom vessels, these shadow fleets. Now, there's one particular ship. It was a Cook Islands registered ship, which officials say left from a Russian port. That is the preliminary information. And Finnish Coast Guard officers basically abseiled from, were dropped by a helicopter on Thursday, landed on board of this vessel, which they're calling the Eagle S, in the Baltic waters. And they landed on the ship, took command, and sailed the vessel into Finnish waters. What they're doing now is they have moved that vessel into Inner Anchorage. That is a port not far from Helsinki for further investigation. I will say the context here is important because these cables were severed. There's no absolute definitive conclusion right now, but since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, we have had a series of power outages, of telecom links going down, of gas pipelines being severed, which some suspect investigators have to do with foul play, sabotage by suspected Russian players. Not always, but there is suspicion of that, which is why Baltic nations have been on high alert. And the nations, not just Baltics, but Finland as well, have been always very, very on high alert to these types of incidents.